Welcome. I want you to close your eyes for just a second. Imagine the quiet sound of rain against a window pane. Picture the steady, rhythmic ticking of an old clock in a grand, empty library, and the reflection of stars in perfectly still water. All right, open your eyes. You're stepping into an immersive explainer of Book 2 from the Chronicles of Ephemeral Echoes, Echoes of Eternity. We aren't just going to hear a story today, we're actually entering a living world to learn how to think a little more clearly. Most stories we hear focus on heroes and power, right? They're always asking, what can we do? But this story, it completely shifts the focus. It embraces humility and asks a much harder question. What should we do? Think about it. What if the consequences of our choices never truly disappear? In a world that is so obsessed with quick fixes and just moving on to the next thing, we rarely stop to consider the sheer permanence of our actions. What if those decisions continue to echo, vibrating through the lives of other people long, long after we've completely forgotten making them? What if a simple, kind word survives way longer than human memory? Or, on the flip side, what if a quietly unspoken fear gradually hardens into a tradition that an entire community inherits? And ultimately, what if a promise could outlive the actual person who made it? Today, I want to invite you on a journey. And it's not a journey through endless time, but rather a journey through the lasting traces of human choices. So let's dive into Part 1, The Echoes of Eternity, and look beyond endless time. Now, when we start talking about these massive philosophical concepts, it can honestly feel a bit overwhelming. You might be wondering, what does eternity actually mean in this context? Does it just mean endless, infinite time? Well, actually, no. Eternity here is not endless time. It's the lasting echo of human actions. A kind word, a fear, a lesson, or promise. They literally all leave traces that continue far beyond us. Eternity is simply what remains when an action keeps touching lives long after the hand that started it has moved away. Which brings us right to Part 2, Resonance Explained. One pattern answering another. To really grasp this, we just need to look at everyday life. Think about a struck musical bell, or ripples expanding in a pool of water. A forgotten memory, suddenly awakening, or an unspoken fear taking root as a tradition. If you strike one bell, another nearby bell might actually begin to vibrate in sympathy, right? That's because resonance is simply when one pattern awakens and answers another. You speak one sentence and suddenly a forgotten memory awakens in your friend. You meet someone new and something deep inside you just responds. That is the core of resonance. It's this beautiful, invisible web of how we react to the world and to each other. In our story, the town had healed. But as we find out, healed things can still echo. The clock in Eldoria stood repaired. The wounds had completely closed. And yet, beneath the quiet streets of the town, something had begun to answer. Let's move into Part 3, The Shadows of Possibility. The branch before the choice. So beneath Eldoria's quiet streets, a mysterious bell waits in the dark. It literally represents branches of the future that haven't been decided yet. Our main character, Alex Mercer, learned how to repair a single town, but now he's realizing that a repaired town still carries unanswered versions of itself. The door to time is hidden inside every single decision that hasn't been fully understood yet. Possibility is absolutely not a certainty. It's a branching path that's asking to be understood before an action is actually taken. You see, true wisdom begins by slowing down before power acts. When a possibility frightens you, you don't just blindly obey it or run away from it. You have to break it down into parts. This sets up our next section, Part 4, When Help Becomes Dangerous. It's a really fascinating systemic conflict. When a powerful institution like Meridian in our story arrives offering all the answers, we absolutely must pause. Look, help is a beautiful thing, but help without growth? That just creates dependence. Solving every single problem for someone else can slowly erode their own strength. True, loving help is actually about making others capable, not just fixing their immediate issues so they rely on you forever. There's a brilliant quote from this story. If help asks you to surrender your questions, it is not help yet. It's so true. The most dangerous offers in life often show up sounding like progress and relief. But if an offer praises your principles while quietly trying to absorb your power and silence your questions, man, it's a trap. All right, Part 5, Systems Thinking Without Fear. Seeing those connections. At its core, a system is really just a repeated pattern of relationships. It's cause and effect, it's feedback loops where one action creates a result and that result informs the very next action. It involves trust, consent, memory, and local field wisdom. Literally everything is connected. And understanding complexity doesn't require a math degree. It just requires seeing these everyday human connections and realizing that absolutely nothing exists alone. Which brings us to the final piece, Part 6, the Covenant of Responsibility, making eternity answerable. The story gives us an amazing framework that acts like a compass for literally any system, relationship, or technology in your life. It comes down to 5 pillars. Number 1, visibility. Can people actually see what is happening? Number 2, consent. Can people meaningfully choose to participate? 3, limits. What is the boundary of this action or power? 4, memory. What truth will be recorded and remembered? And 5, renewal. How will this system actually learn, correct itself, and change over time? This completely transforms abstract philosophy into a practical tool you can use tomorrow morning. So in the end, Eldoria and Meridian don't just sign a basic contract. A contract just asks, what have we agreed to exchange? But a covenant, that is so much deeper. A covenant asks, what kind of people must we become to remain worthy of trust? Eternity becomes humane not through dramatic, forceful control, but through repeated, everyday care. As the story reaches its incredibly emotional close, the sea breathes in time with the clocks for 1 single minute. Shared power finally accepts visible limits. As the book says, eternity did not end. It learned a boundary. They didn't solve everything forever, but they made the future answerable. They created the exact conditions where people can keep choosing honestly. Which leaves us with a final, provocative thought to take away from our explainer today. Are the promises you make today ones that future people can repair without betrayal? Because eternity isn't about freezing time. It's about the lasting echo of your choices. So, what kind of echo are you leaving behind? Take that question with you and keep learning.